Every single day, Airbus builds 3 brand new aircraft and delivers them to airlines around the world, 3 a day, every day. That is already an extraordinary engineering achievement. But here is the part that nobody talks about. Before a single aircraft can be assembled, its parts have to travel thousands of kilometers across Europe, through storms in the North Sea, through a medieval bridge with arches so narrow there are only a few inches of clearance on each side, and through the sleeping streets of small French towns in the middle of the night, with wings hanging 15 meters off the back of a truck and coming within centimeters of lamp posts and rooftops. This is not a logistics operation. This is one of the most precisely engineered transport systems ever built, and it runs every single day, whether anyone is watching or not.
To understand why this transport system is so extraordinary, you first need to understand what Airbus actually is and how it came to exist. In the 1960s, the major aviation powers of Europe, France, Germany, Spain, and the United Kingdom, looked at the dominance of American aircraft manufacturers like Boeing and made a decision. They were going to build a competitor. Not one country alone, but all of them together, pooling their best engineers, their best factories, and their best technology into a single shared enterprise. The result was Airbus, and the arrangement they chose, for both practical and political reasons, was that different parts of each aircraft would be manufactured in different countries, with each nation contributing the components it was best equipped to produce. Germany would make the tail sections in Hamburg, France would handle the central fuselage sections and nose in Saint-Nazaire, England would manufacture the wings in Broughton, Wales, Spain would produce additional tail components in Cadiz, and all of those parts, built in factories separated by thousands of kilometers of land and sea, would be brought together in Toulouse, France, for final assembly.
On paper, it was a brilliant political compromise. In practice, it created one of the most complex logistical challenges in the history of manufacturing. In the early days of Airbus, when demand for their aircraft was relatively modest, the solution was simple enough: trucks and ships. It worked, but it was slow, sometimes taking months to move a single set of components from factory to assembly line. And as Airbus grew and orders multiplied, that slowness became an existential problem. You cannot build 3 aircraft per day if your parts are stuck on a ship somewhere in the Atlantic for 6 weeks. Airbus needed something faster, and in 1994, they found their inspiration in an unlikely place: the Arctic Ocean. The beluga whale is a creature found in the cold northern seas, recognizable by its enormous bulbous forehead and its distinctly rounded, oversized skull. An Airbus engineer, looking at photographs of the whale, saw something that nobody else had seen before: the perfect shape for a cargo aircraft.
The result was the Airbus Beluga, a modified A300 aircraft with a fuselage so wide and so tall that it looks almost exactly like its whale namesake, complete with the characteristic bulging upper section that gives it its enormous carrying capacity. The Beluga is not an ordinary aircraft by any measure. It stretches 56 meters from nose to tail, longer than an Olympic swimming pool. It stands 17 meters tall, equivalent to a 7-story building. Its cargo hold is large enough to fit 182 Suzuki Altos side by side. Its nose section hinges upward like the bonnet of a car, allowing entire aircraft fuselage sections and wing pairs to be driven directly inside on wheeled platforms, loaded and unloaded without the need for cranes. A pair of Airbus A350 wings, each 32 meters long and worth 40 million euros, can be loaded into the Beluga's hold and flown from one end of Europe to the other in approximately 2 hours. The same journey by ship and truck would have taken months. Airbus was so satisfied with the Beluga that in 2014 they built an even larger version called the Beluga XL, with greater capacity and improved performance. For most of Airbus's aircraft range, the Beluga and Beluga XL solved the logistics problem completely and permanently. But then, in 2004, Airbus did something that created a problem even the Beluga could not solve.
The Airbus A380 is the largest passenger aircraft ever built.
Its fuselage is 8.4 meters high. Its wings, measured from tip to tip, span nearly 80 meters. Each wing is made as a single continuous piece, not assembled from sections, because the wings contain fuel tanks and hydraulic lines and bear almost the entire structural load of the aircraft in flight, meaning any join or seam would be a catastrophic weakness. A single A380 wing is 16 meters wide at the point where it meets the fuselage. The cargo hold of the Beluga XL is 7.5 meters high. The mathematics were brutal and simple. The A380's parts were too large for the Beluga by a significant margin, and there was no straightforward way to change that. Airbus considered building a Beluga XXL, an even larger version of the whale aircraft, but the engineering costs alone would have run to billions of euros, and the A380, despite being a masterpiece of aviation engineering, was never a high-volume product. Only 251 units were ever built, with 50% of them ending up with Emirates Airlines, because operating an aircraft that carries 850 passengers requires a very specific type of route and a very specific type of airline. Building a billion-euro transport aircraft to move components for a low-volume product made no economic sense. Airbus needed a completely different solution, and what they built instead became one of the most remarkable logistical operations anywhere on Earth.
The answer was the Super Convoy, a multimodal transport system combining specially designed ships, river barges, and enormous road vehicles into a single coordinated operation that moves A380 components from factories across Europe to the assembly hall in Toulouse. The journey begins at the port of Hamburg in Germany, where the tail sections produced in the local factory are loaded directly onto a roll-on, roll-off cargo ship. These vessels, the largest of which, the city of Hamburg, is 126 meters long and 20 meters wide, with a cargo deck 5 times larger than the Beluga XL's hold, are designed so that components on wheeled platforms can be driven straight aboard without cranes, eliminating one of the most dangerous steps in any heavy cargo operation. The ship then sails 1,600 kilometers from Hamburg through the North Sea to the port of Saint-Nazaire in France, collecting additional fuselage components made at the French factory along the way. This sea crossing is not a gentle one. The North Sea is notorious for storms, and waves of 5 meters or more are entirely normal. A 40 million euro set of aircraft wings sitting in the hold of a ship pitching through 5-meter swells is not a comfortable thing to be responsible for, which is why the ship's crew inspect and tighten the cargo securing chains every 4 hours without exception, and a dedicated camera system monitors the cargo hold around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, looking for any sign of movement or damage. From Saint-Nazaire, the components are transferred from the ocean-going ship onto specially designed river barges that will carry them along the Garonne River toward the city of Bordeaux. This river section of the journey contains what is arguably the most extraordinary single moment in the entire logistics operation. Between Saint-Nazaire and Bordeaux, the Garonne passes under a bridge called the Pont de Pierre, a historic stone bridge built in 1810, 500 meters long, whose arches have supported river traffic for over 200 years. The bridge has multiple arches of varying widths, but only one of them, arch number 9, is wide enough for the Airbus barges to pass through. That arch is 19 meters wide. The barges carrying A380 components are only a few inches narrower. The margin of error on each side is measured in centimeters. But the width problem, extraordinary as it is not actually the hardest part. The hardest part is the height. The Garonne River at this point is 60 kilometers inland from the Atlantic Ocean, but it is still tidal. The water level rises and falls with the ocean tides, and in normal conditions, the water is high enough that the barges, even with their adjustable platforms lowered to their minimum height, cannot fit under the arches of the Pont de Pierre.
The only moments when passage is possible are during low tide, and those windows are brief. Every 12 hours, the tide drops low enough to allow the barges to pass, and that window lasts approximately 3 minutes. 3 minutes every 12 hours. If the barge captain misses the window for any reason, and the Airbus assembly schedule in Toulouse is disrupted. Airbus engineers solved part of this problem by installing adjustable platforms on the barges that can be lowered during the tide window to reduce the overall height of the cargo as much as possible, buying themselves every possible centimeter of clearance. But the 3-minute window remains, and hitting it precisely every time is a non-negotiable requirement of the operation. Once through the bridge and into Bordeaux, the A380 components are offloaded from the barges and transferred to what Airbus calls the Super Convoy, a fleet of road vehicles unlike anything normally seen on public roads. Each truck in the convoy is 50 meters long, runs on 96 wheels, and is powered by a 650 horsepower engine. The A380 wings overhang the back of these trucks by 15 meters. The entire convoy travels only at night, when roads can be closed and traffic kept clear, accompanied by a team of 40 people, including police officers, engineers, escort vehicles, and specialists whose sole job is to ensure that 15 meters of aircraft wing does not make contact with any of the lampposts, road signs, trees, and building overhangs that line the route through the small French towns and villages between Bordeaux and Toulouse.
In the tightest sections, narrow roundabouts, sharp corners, medieval town centers not designed with 50-meter trucks in mind, arriving at the Airbus assembly facility in Toulouse as the sun rises. When the components arrive, they are unloaded and moved into the assembly hall, where high-precision robotic systems and teams of skilled workers attach them together using more than 19,000 rivets for the fuselage alone and 4,000 more to join the wings. 9 months after the first component leaves its factory, a complete Airbus A380 carrying 850 passengers, weighing 575,000 kilograms at takeoff, worth $445 million, rolls out of the assembly hall and is handed to its airline.